I see significant upside here for this compound and for this company. I think we've validated the compound. We've de-risked it in a major international trial. We have one of the major pancreatic foundations, the Lustgarten Research Foundation, sponsoring clinical trial with our drug in it. We have the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation very interested in taking this forward in Ewing sarcoma. And we have a number of opportunity sets of different indications of very high value.
Welcome to The Upside with Lou Basenese. Don't look now, but biotech is having its comeback moment. The major indexes are up more than 25% this year. And I got to be honest, I'm not surprised because Big Pharma has a big problem. They've got to replace almost $180 billion worth of revenue before 2028. And they're targeting that by focusing on indications that are particularly nasty, like cancer, one in particular, pancreatic cancer. Now, I'm fortunate today to have Dan Schmitt with me from Actuate Therapeutics, a company that is actually focusing on pancreatic cancer. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Lou. I appreciate the time.
Yeah. So I always start with the end in mind. What's the big breakthrough that Actuate has made in terms of treating pancreatic cancer?
Well, we have addressed what was previously considered an undruggable target. Okay.
So not treatable. Is this why pancreatic cancer is, expected survival is less than a year a lot of times,
well,
right?
Yeah, in that, pancreatic cancer has been the histology or the indication or the disease in cancer that was considered fraught with failure.
Okay.
Right? Very difficult disease to treat, very difficult disease to target, and a lot of unsuccessful attempts. We have a compound now that is targeting a protein, a kinase, that was previously considered undruggable by Big Pharma. And I think that's the big breakthrough.
Is that no one else thought this could be done, and you are showing, now you just finished phase 2, you're getting ready to do a phase 3 trial. So this is over 200 patients where you're seeing this is actually working.
Right. So Big Pharma had targeted this kinase, it's called GSK3. With no success. AstraZeneca was there, GlaxoSmithKline was there, Lilly actually took a compound into the clinic, and all of them failed against this very high value target. It's a master regulator of some key oncogenic pathways, which means these are pathways within cancer cells that help it grow, help it survive, and help it avoid chemo treatment.
So it's like a control room for the cancer, not what you want to be in control, though. You want to wrestle the control back for the body.
Right. And so you want to hit that target and down-regulate its activity.
So you guys are doing that. You're doing it successfully. We'll get into more of the details of what's next. But I also want to address kind of the big why. Like, how did you end up here? Because you start mentioning big names like Lilly and AstraZeneca. We were talking before. You started out when Amgen and Biogen were coming out.
Yeah.
You've had time at Big Pharma. How do you end up at a micro cap, $150 million market cap company running it?
Well, that was always my interest. So I started in Big Pharma at a company called Burroughs Wellcome back in the AIDS crisis.
Okay.
And was focused in infectious disease, developing antiviral drugs against AIDS and herpetic infections. And took that franchise and was, a key member, expanding it into $1 billion franchise back in the 80s. We were then became very valuable and acquired.
Okay.
And during that acquisition, I was recruited into Chicagoland at Fujisawa, which became Astellas. And, there's a track record of going to places, getting them valuable, and then being acquired. Ended up at Searle as director of global oncology there and their new products. That was acquired ultimately by Pfizer. And
so I think I need to work for you because then we'll get acquired. That's just
that's the idea, isn't it? And we decided at that point to just stay in Chicagoland, raise a family, and look for opportunities to, at the local academic institutions where there are great research institutions in the Chicagoland area that were developing new therapeutics and new technologies. This one happened to have been invented at UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, which is the medical school for the University of Illinois.
Because everyone thinks, Boston is the epicenter of biotech, right?
Yeah,
so
it is. I think so.
Yeah.
They have the infrastructure, right? They have both the institutions and the venture capital. Chicago has great research institutions, University of Illinois, University of Chicago, and Northwestern University. And that's where these technologies were being evaluated and developed.
Yeah.
And that's where I came across them through my networks.
Okay. So then now we get the fast forward, right? So it's getting spun out of a university. We're going to phase 2 into phase 3. What's the most recent development? Let's put it in context for everyone here. What's standard of care? Like, what are people with pancreatic cancer getting treated with now? And then what is Actuate doing and what are the results showing?
So standard of care is dependent on the health of the patient. So if you walked into your oncologist's office and he said, look, you've got metastatic pancreatic cancer, which means we've diagnosed it a little bit too late. It's already escaped the pancreas and is going to other organs. We call that the predator, right? That's the one that you've heard about, people getting diagnosed and passing away within a couple months. You're young, you're strong. He would typically prescribe to you a 4-drug combination called FOLFIRINOX.
Okay. And is that 4 different types of chemotherapy?
It's 4 different types of old chemotherapy. And I call it the 10-pound sledgehammer. It's somewhat more effective, but it's also somewhat more toxic.
Yeah.
And so it's given to younger and stronger patients because they can handle the toxicity.
And is that indicative of a lot of cancers? Like, our way we treat it is I mean, lack of a better term, is barbaric. We're trying to throw everything we can at the body to kill the cancer, but maybe not kill the patient.
Right. That's the old school approach.
Right. And so you guys come along, and how are you doing that different? Like, what is?
Well, there's newer. So with the evolution of care, some cancers are being much more targeted rather than poisoned.
Okay.
Okay. And looking for these differences between normal cells and cancer cells, you can throw a specific drug for a specific pathway to downregulate these key processes that keep the cancer growing and alive.
Okay. So the difference
Pancreatic is one of the last ones to get that.
Got it.
Okay. So they're still stuck in treatment with chemo. All right.
So we're trying to get away from carpet bombing and move more to like precision guided missiles.
Right. Exactly. Okay. And that's where we come in.
Okay.
Now, somebody that's a little bit older, a little bit more frail, relatively speaking.
I won't make any value judgment.
Okay. Thank you. So would get something called gemcitabine.
Okay.
And in combination with Abraxane, which is a Taxol type molecule. It's not as effective as FOLFIRINOX in terms of survival length, maybe a month or 2 less.
Okay.
At the median.
So, I mean, we're really talking about months. On either end.
Months.
Literally. And so this is we're not years of continued. No. You get, it's painful to say, but it's a death sentence if you find out you have pancreatic cancer for 95% of people.
Yeah. It's got a 5-year survival rate of less than 5%.
Wow. And then, so let's get into the results for the trial that just happened. What is it doing? Like, how long has it extended that survival rate?
So we measure it 2 ways. We measure it in terms of percents of patients surviving 1 year, 18 months, 24 months. You know? And the other way we measure it is what is the median overall survival. So we combined our compound, it's called Elraglusib, or Elra for short, with gemcitabine and Abraxane. So these are the more older, frailer patients.
Another question for another time is how the alphabet soup and naming happens in biotech, because I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll bring you up to speed on that. In any event, we recruited over 286 patients around the globe, Western Europe, Canada, and US. And we randomized them either to just the standard of care, gemcitabine or Abraxane, or that plus Elra.
Okay.
We just presented our major data at ASCO, which is the big clinical oncology conference. It's the world's largest, and it happens in Chicago every summer. We had an oral presentation at the plenary session, and the data showed significant increases in survival measured both ways.
Okay.
So from the landmarks, we doubled the percent of patients reaching 1 year survival. Okay. So 44% in the combination group, only 22% in the control group.
Okay.
And that continued in the 18-month and the 24-month benchmark. Significance to, p-values of 0.0005,
Right.
which
So
means highly significant increases.
So, and we talked about this before, is why not? Why would anyone not want to try this drug? Because you're not picking between what's standard of care. It's in addition to, right? And it's,
yes.
And it's simple IV administration, right? So
at the same sitting.
At the same sitting. So it's
right.
at the same time. So is there any reason why people are saying not to do that? I mean, have you no recruitment problems?
We have no recruitment problems in that clinical trial. It went very quickly. I think that the enrollment significantly increased as physicians became more familiar with what they were seeing in their patients. So we talk about treatment in terms of risk benefits. So this is a question: why would you not want to do this? Some chemos may extend life, like FOLFIRINOX does over gemcitabine, but they come with some downside risk. I mean, more toxicities, untenable toxicities such as GI issues.
So your quality of life just suffers
quality of life.
Yeah.
And I've had friends in my neighborhood who got pancreatic cancer and decided to go off those old chemos because it just ruins everything. Yeah. And they know the clock is ticking. The interesting thing in our clinical trial is we were able to double or triple the likelihood of 1-year survival and beyond based on the patient profiles with minimal clinical risk.
So you're still so safe. It's not, is it not creating these nasty side effects? I mean, because you're still taking the poison of the chemotherapy.
Right. But you're not adding anything in addition to that in any meaningful way.
Got it.
We see a couple side effects with our compound. One is patients report when they're getting the infusion that the lights in the room turn a little bit bluer. And this has been seen with other GSK inhibitors as well.
So it's just normal biological functioning related to that.
Right. But it goes completely away. There's no long-term effects. It's a little bit of color blindness for about 18 to 24 hours. And then it goes away and it completely resolves. The only other thing we're seeing is an increase in the rate of neutropenia, which is a decrease in white blood cells.
Okay.
This is well known to be an effect of the standard of care, the gemcitabine. We think we're potentiating it a little bit.
So it's not as severe as with just standard
it's the rate is a little bit higher, but we're not seeing any increases in infection or febrile neutropenia. So you're adding, additional long-term survival with no real quality of life issues.
Like if you're my doctor, I'm sitting here going, I have to decide, do I want to live longer and maybe have some small biomarkers that are going up in a way that might cause problems, but most likely not.
Readily manageable.
So let's talk a little bit about the market for this. I mean, this is one drug. I said it before that this is not a platform of drugs. It's one drug that could go into a platform of indications and other cancers that have the same, target.
Right.
How big is this market worth for pancreatic cancer?
Well, the market is targeted out to be about a $5 billion market. And the analysts who are covering us see this as a potential as $1 billion drug. Just in
this one in pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, because this can be combined with standard of care. There's new drugs coming in that are called RAS inhibitors. The early data shows that these can be combined and would potentiate each other. So this is really seen as a potential backbone therapy, where others that are being developed can be combined with it and actually compensate both therapies' ability to treat the cancer.
Right. So they could be combined in a powerful way.
Yeah.
Most people think about this way. I mean, everyone's been touched by cancer in some way, shape, or form. Immediate questions can be, when could this be available, right? So we're phase 2 going to phase 3. I think you're going to meet with the FDA and the EMA, so approval in the US and the European Union. What does that look like, a timeline? I mean, I know that you don't have specifics yet, but
I would say we are looking at a registration path with both these agencies. And the best guess is a potential approval in the 29 type time frame. But there are other indications, as you said. This is has the potential to be a pipeline and a molecule. So we're working in other indications such as metastatic melanoma, non-small cell lung cancer, colorectal cancer. We have clinical proof of increased efficacy by adding this to standard of
and
care.
These are things that don't have great treatment options right now either. So hard to treat cancers, and you're showing early signs. And again, I don't want to lead you there, but are you saying that you might see something there, a registration before 2029 for some of those in the pipeline?
I think it's more likely to be in some of the pediatric cancers that we're going after also.
Okay.
So Ewing sarcoma is a deadly disease in adolescents. It's a bone cancer that occurs when they are going through the growth spurts. And neuroblastoma as well. These are both highly fatal diseases when they become refractory. We see significant potential there, and they may lend themselves to an accelerated registration.
You can get approval sooner because there's no other treatment.
Right.
Talk about a little bit more about the tech. How did you, we talked about it was spun out of a university.
Right.
At what point, what other data that supports that this could target other indications, right? And part and parcel of that is what's the patent protection look like? Right.
So when we licensed this, we actually started the company 10 years ago in 2015. And this was a molecule that was very much in very early stage. So it was in being evaluated in Petri dishes and in mouse models, if you will, right? And so we advanced it very quickly. The first thing I did with some seed capital was have a kilo of this synthesized and then sent to labs all over the world, looking at the same histologies or different histologies to see where this would
what diseases it might work with, right?
Yeah. And so this target is known across a number of diseases where chemo becomes refractory. The other thing that's been shown since we've been in the clinic is that when we treat patients, there is not only a downregulation in tumor processes, those growth pathways, but an upregulation in the immune response from the patient towards the tumor itself. So you're downregulating the tumor and you're increasing immune response to take on the cancer itself.
The patient's own body is saying, is responding the way it was designed to, right? So the T cells that are supposed to target the cancer start becoming much more active.
Right. We show that we increase the number of T cells in the blood, that those T cells now become focused in terms of the receptors they're looking for. And at ASCO, the presenter showed data that in the patients that have the combination actually had T cells in the tumors themselves.
So they're getting into the environment.
They're penetrating into the environment.
So we used the military analogy before. So it's not just precision guided missiles. It's actually recruiting troops on the ground to go in and fight the cancer inside your body.
Yeah, which is very novel for a single compound. So we know that this target is active across a number of different cancers. It's also very active in CNS disease.
Okay.
And so the opportunity set here is extremely large. This is a very benign and precision drug. The safety profile is exceptional. And from a patent perspective, we do have a long runway. During development, we were able to identify 2 and only 2 unique crystalline forms of the drug. And we submitted both of those to the US, EU, and all the major markets. And those patents have been issued as unique compositions of matter.
Okay.
Now that's the really, really strong
foundational patent.
Yeah. And so those give us exclusivity out until 2043.
Okay. So you got plenty of patent protection, a great safety profile, a well-defined mechanism of action that this works in possibly multiple indications.
Yep.
What are the competitors to this? Is there anything that you see out there?
No, we are the most advanced of the GSK inhibitors. As I said before, AstraZeneca, Glaxo, and Lilly all had programs targeting this because this is a high value target. But with their failures, pharma sort of went on its merry way. We are blessed with some exceptional medicinal chemistry that made this compound highly specific, highly potent, and designed to cross through the blood-brain barrier.
Okay.
So that made it very cell penetrative, especially in tumors, right? So we have a number of opportunity sets to take this forward.
So not much competitive, it's more collaborative, right?
Right.
What you could pair with other drugs versus looking for something that's doing
and the ability to combine with those other drugs as well, because this is a compensatory mechanism. Tumors are Darwinian, right? So when you target them, it's the mass itself is heterogeneous, which means that there's a lot of different profiles of cells in a single tumor. It's unusual for a tumor to be made up of all the same type cells.
Okay.
You'll kill off half of them.
Right.
The other half are surviving because that target isn't active there.
And then they reproduce.
And then they reproduce. And now you have a refractory tumor, right? So the idea that we can put two of these targeted therapies together to downregulate both pathways or multiple pathways so the tumor can't escape is really an attractive approach.
And you're seeing this happen in the clinical studies as well. You see the tumors shrinking. I mean, in this industry specific terms are complete responses or partial responses. So a 30% reduction in tumor size is the partial response. Complete response is what it sounds like. Complete, so your target is being effective.
Right. All the target tumor has been completely eradicated and there's no new lesions showing up.
Right.
And we have those.
Yeah, that's huge. So talk to me about the risk. I mean, if I look at this as an investor or someone considering in biotech, it's 10 years in the making. So this is not something that's still in the lab and preclinical. It's got a significant safety profile that's been defined across multiple, 500 plus patients, I believe.
Yes.
Where does the risk come in? Is it just simply time and money?
I think it's all the normal biotech risks for a program at this stage, time and money.
Yeah.
I think we've validated the compound. We've de-risked it in a major international trial. We've got a lot of interest from KOLs, key opinion leaders, investigators, and international foundations. We have one of the major pancreatic foundations, the Lustgarten Research Foundation, sponsoring clinical trial with our drug in it. We have the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation very interested in taking this forward in Ewing sarcoma because we have patients with refractory Ewing sarcoma having complete responses where complete responses are not seen.
They don't happen. Yeah.
And we have a number of opportunity sets of different indications of very high value where the investigators are asking us to participate.
So they're coming to you, which is rare because in a lot of other indications, there's so many other choices. And this is a front line. This is what you can prescribe right away. So this all adds up to the question I always ask at the end too, is looking at what's the upside here? Because if I look at right now, just valuations for phase 2 to phase 3 stage companies, it's 4 to 10x where you're at right now.
Yeah.
And so what's the disconnect and what do you think the ultimate upside here is given your history in the industry?
I see significant upside here for this compound and for this company. I think we have run this as a private company for up until last year. Very much, periscope down, running very efficiently, having our coming out party right in 2024, which was a difficult year for biotechs. When we went to conferences, the analysts' main question was, if this is so good, why haven't I heard of you? Well,
right.
We've been running hard and running deep. I think now, as we move forward in our discussions with the regulators and going into a phase 3 registration trial and the market becoming more aware of what we're doing and how important it is and how, impressive the data are. I think that there's this, we're about ready to roll.
Well, I like to hear it because, and as I love talking to biotech CEOs as well, because there's a double bottom line, right? This is not just about bringing a new product to market and making money from it, but it's more importantly, it's about extending human life. Right. And in this case, in a disease that is particularly nasty and claims lives far too often. So we would love to keep talking as you have new developments along the way. And thank you for your time today.
Louis, my pleasure.